This week is Parshat Tisa. The main theme of the Parsha is the sin of the golden calf and its aftermath. Moses praying and interceding for the people, and God ultimately forgiving the people. And the Torah portion, though, opens with Ki Tisa et Rosh Bnei Yisrael lifkudehem. God instructing Moses on the people donating a half shekel, which was an annual commitment that everybody had to give to the temple. And it was also served as a way to count the people. Now, this half shekel that was supposed to be given was to atone for the sin of the golden calf. So actually, the Torah portion opens with a discussion of the atonement for the golden calf before it really gets into the details of the sin of the golden calf. But the term used to describe this giving of the half shekel, this tithe, is Ki Tisa et Rosh Bnei Yisrael, when you will raise up the head of the Jewish people. The head, the Jew should be raised, should be elevated. What does that mean? Why does the Torah use that term? So there's a difference between humans and animals. Well, there are several differences, but one of the differences between humans and animals is that human beings stand erect. It says that God's gift to humanity is that we walk on 2 feet, which means that the feet are on the ground and the body goes straight up. The head is at the top, and then goes the heart, and then the extremity, the rest of the body. The reason for this is, whereas for an animal, the animal walks on all fours, and walking on all fours means that the head and the heart and the reproductive organs are all on the same level. And so this represents the difference between man and beast. Animals, their carnal desires, their lusts, their interests, and even their intellect are all on the same level, all of them guided towards just satisfying the animal's needs. In fact, the animal's head is actually pointed down typically, and it eats grass from the ground. It's always looking down. Human beings, on the other hand, the head, the heart is above the reproductive organs, and the head sits above the heart, which tells us that a proper way of a human being to function is that the head is the dominant one. That's why it sits at the top. The head, the person's intellect and their wisdom is what should dictate how the heart should feel, or at least guide the heart, tame the heart, as well as not just give in to their basest desires and interests. So the human being is sophisticated, is intelligent, and that's why the head's on top. The animal is more reactionary, more instinctive, and more self-centered, doesn't have the ability, or at least it's not natural for the animal to look up, whereas the human being, the head on top, not only does that represent the intellect being supreme, but also gives the person the capacity to look up, to look to the sky, to look to heaven, to look beyond themselves, beyond the material world, and beyond their material desires. When the Jewish people sinned with the golden calf, so what did they do? They created a golden calf, right? So they had this desire to serve God. And we're not going to get into today exactly the motivation, the many different ways of understanding this very enigmatic story, strange story of the Jewish people right after receiving this great revelation at Sinai, worshiping an idol, creating an idol. But what is the imagery that they create? They create a golden calf. So it's made of gold and it's a calf, right? We both represent this idea of a pursuit of self-fulfillment and self-advancement, self-interest, the desire to make a living, and the desire to make sure that your material needs are put above all else, and that the heart is what's driving the bus, not the mind. Which is why it emerges as an animal. In fact, the description in the book of Psalms is that they created an image of an ox eating grass, right? Eating grass, that's part of the imagery, that they create an idol which is head down to the ground and satisfying its own needs and its own interests. The atonement for that was the giving of the half shekel, was taking their gold, taking their money, taking that which they felt so near and dear to themselves, the thing that had them worried and anxious and nervous, making sure that their material needs are met, taking of those needs, taking of those resources and donating them to God, giving them away to God. In other words, saying that there's something bigger and greater and grander than just my own personal needs and my own personal interests. By taking their gold and giving it to God, donating it to the temple to build a home for God, the people redirected their priorities, shifted their perspective, and now we're able to look up and look beyond just the temporary, limited material perspective that they had before. And this is why the Torah tells us, Ki Tisa at Rosh, when you're going to lift their head, pick your head up, get your head out of the sand, pick your head up from down, look up. Like we say, the Shema Yisrael, the seminal prayer that's on the lips of every single Jew, Shema Yisrael, Hear O Israel. The word Shema is an acronym for the word Se'u Marom Einechem, lift your eyes heavenwards. When we lift our eyes up to heaven, when we turn to God, we have the ability to transcend the stresses, the pressures, the squeeze of our material needs, our material interests, and we could live a truly expansive life, a life that has a head held up high, held proud, and that is not bogged down by all of the upheavals of the material world.